Welcome to this video how you can send messages with Flowable to RabbitMQ. In this video we will first look at how you need to configure RabbitMQ with Flowable, and then afterwards we will create a simple model to send out a message to a RabbitMQ exchange or queue. Now to get started, first let's look at the Flowable configuration, and here we need to set the property application Rabbit enabled to true in case you are using the Flowable out-of-the-box images. In case you have a customization project, please ensure that you have the Spring Boot starter dependencies for AMQP on your class path to get started with RabbitMQ. In addition to that, you need to set the properties for the address of RabbitMQ as well as the username and the password. Once you have done that, you can go to Flowable Design and get started with the modeling. Now the first step which I am going to do is creating a new app. So let's call that RabbitMQ example. And inside this app, we then can get started with creating a new event. The event describes basically the message which we are going to send out. So let's say in here we have an order, and that order is going to be our event which we are sending out, and it contains different fields. Those fields we can add here now. The name is basically how that field is going to be named. Then the type is which type it has. So here a string is a simple text. We have Boolean as an value like true and false. Then we have different numbers, and we have a more complex JSON structure, which you can have as well. Let's say the ID is a string. Then we have, for example, also the customer ID, which is going to be a long, and then we say we have a name and a description. Now, once we have configured that event, we can go ahead and configure a channel. So let's say we create a new channel, and that's our RabbitMQ outbound channel. Let's create that one. And here we can now specify the type is outbound, the implementation is going to be RabbitMQ, and we can specify here the routing key. Now, in case we do not define here an exchange, the routing key is basically the name of our queue. When you have an exchange, you can also specify that here below advanced. I will directly go ahead and specify here the routing key as orders, since that's the queue where I would like to send messages to. Now with that, we can go ahead and create a simple process. It could be also a case. And in this process, we can send out messages. So let's say we have a create order process in here. And this process here has a start form. Let's call that create order. And we are adding a few fields to that. First of all, we have a number field, which is going to be my customer ID. Then I'm going to add an order name and a multi-line text for order description as well. So those are my fields which I'm adding. And in the next step, I can go ahead and say here, after my start form, let's go ahead and send out an event. Therefore, you have the send event task. You can also do that with the send and receive event task, which combines the send and the receive event task just in one single task, which is helpful when you send out an event and directly wait for a response. To keep that simple, I will now use the send event task. Send order is what it is going to do. We configure here our outbound event, where we link to an existing, since we already created that, which is going to be my order. We then map the payload and say here for the ID, that's for example self.id. So we are just providing the ID from our process instance. We then have the customer ID. Here is a next parameter. We have then the order name here coming next, and we have the order description as a next element in here. And with that, we map the fields from our form, which are in variables, to our event. So we are ready to get going there. We also need to define which outbound channel we are using. Therefore, we have the RabbitMQ outbound channel. We just link that simply here. And with that, we only need to introduce an end event. So let's save that and then publish that. And then we can go to Flowable Work. And in Flowable Work, we can now say new work. We directly see our start form here, since it's our only process. We have here the customer ID, my first order. This is my first order. Submit. In the background, it's now sending that one out, basically to Flowable. We already see it's completed now, actually, so that's completed a few seconds ago. And when I just refresh that here, we should also see the process diagram in here. So that's our send order task, which completed. When I now go to RabbitMQ, I have here the orders queue to which we send it. And when we look at that, we see that we received a new message, which is basically ready. And we can say here now we would like to get a message, automatically acknowledge that message. And we see then in here that we have the payload of our first message with the customer ID, the name, and the description coming from our process. So with that, we received a message already with Flowable, and that message we have now here in our RabbitMQ. I hope you enjoyed that video. Thank you very much for watching, and see you next time.